Mời các bạn hãy theo tôi đi vào trong rừng xem cách người Mỹ tái hiện lại cuộc chiến Việt Nam nha. Mời các bạn đi theo tôi. Say hello to everybody around the world.
Hi, everybody around the world. Walking downhill. It's gonna be fun coming back.
Kia có chiếc xe tăng, mình xin người ta lái chở mình đi vòng vòng nữa coi. That'd be nice if we can get a ride.
Oh, no, unfortunately not.
Đây xe tăng M113. Đây có chiếc xe tăng M113. Wow, this tank may be older than I am. Cây đại liên 12 ly 7, người ta còn gọi là 50 caliber, 50 caliber, 50 inch, nửa inch. Đây là những đồ để phóng trái khối. Có 4 ống bên trái và 4 ống bên phải. 4 ống bên phải để phóng trái khối. Đây, người ta đã tháo cái nắp ra. Trái khối được gấp vô đây và có một cây kim quả ở dưới kích nổ.
Slide your butt off that. Yeah, we don't want you to get cold.
Y'all been in Vietnam before?
I have.
Wow, where at?
I was mainly around Saigon.
Oh, Saigon. Wow.
I was in the worked at the airport.
Okay. I was born in Saigon in 1972.
Oh, so that's okay. The time. Well, I was there in '72.
Oh, okay. I'm next to the air base.
Yeah.
I live in next to
Tonsanut.
Yeah, Tonsanut. Yes.
Yeah, that's where I was.
Right at the dog training.
Yeah.
Yes. Beside of the air base, there's a big dog training and on the military dog training. Yes, I'm right up over there.
Wow.
Yes.
It was didn't get too good after we left.
Oh yeah, no, not good at all.
When did you come over to the States?
My father is he is security for the whole Saigon, like a National Guard. Yes, and he got hold for prisoner 5 years after the war. And John McCain, he signed a bill to bring all the officers have been held in prisoner for 5 years. Everybody come over here, so we go that program.
Good.
Yes. That's my co-worker.
Oh.
Yeah. We work in Samsung. Yeah.
Well, we're glad that you came out to see the show.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We'll get started here in just a couple of minutes, so if you guys want to get a seat on the bleachers.
Okay.
Did tell you that his dad was
yeah.
He was born there the year I left.
Oh yeah.
72.
Oh, you left in 72.
72.
Wow. How do you feel to serve over there?
How what now?
How you feel?
I think what we did showed the world that we weren't going to let communism take over, and so the Russians and the Chinese decided they were not going to expand anymore.
Yes.
And I think Vietnam to be united was a good thing.
Okay.
I mean, I know that that's what they wanted, was to make it one country again.
Okay.
And I understand that as an American. I mean, I like one country.
Okay. Yeah.
And so from that viewpoint, I wasn't angry at anybody in Vietnam. you know, I went over to do a job. Yeah. I didn't want people hurt just because they believed one way or the other. Yeah. And so I think in the long term, things probably worked out for the best.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for serving my country.
Well,
will come at the end. Museum hours. Museum will be open till we get everything put away today. So that will be 4:30-ish. We'll see how it goes. We will also be open tomorrow on Memorial Day. We are not normally open to the public on Monday, but we will be open tomorrow from 10 to 4. So please, if you have family members, friends who are looking for something to do, we encourage you to come and visit us and to see what the museum is all about. All right, and people should have their hands up. All right.
I'm the director of the Texas Military Forces Museum, Infantry Division of the Texas National Guard in World War II. This year, however, thought we'd try and do something a little bit different and instead focus on the war in Vietnam. We're on the verge of a lot of very important anniversaries regarding World War II. The 75th anniversary of the 36th Division leading the breakout from Anzio's beachhead and the capture of Rome. The 75th anniversary of the Allied landings at Normandy, the famous D-Day operation, the 75th anniversary. For 72 years, more than 3.5 million Americans would serve in Southeast Asia, more than 2.5 million would serve in Vietnam itself, and 1.5 million of those would actually engage in combat operations against the enemy. With Memorial Day around the corner, we thought it was important throughout our long and storied history. And we're going to do that for you today by looking at a particular segment of the war in Vietnam, and that is the infantry war, the war of the common soldier, the common GI as he would have been known in World War II, but the grunt as he was known in Vietnam. And we're going to do that first by looking at the makeup of a typical infantry platoon. In Vietnam, the one when you were and the branch of the service you were in and the unit you were in, your war was different than everybody else's war. But what was typical was the hardship, the danger, the uncertainty, the valor, and the military skill of the men who fought for the United States in that conflict. And this was true of the infantry as any other branch of the armed forces. Under the table of organization and equipment, an infantry company would number 170 men, broke into 3 rifle platoons and 1 weapons platoon. Each rifle platoon would have 3 rifle squads and a weapons squad. Each of those squads, 10 men. So a full-strength rifle was necessary. And so what you see here behind me is a typical 1968-1969 American platoon. Not 4 squads, 2 squads. And the weaponry and the uniforms are typical of what you'd see throughout the entire conflict. So these soldiers are wearing what is known as the jungle fatigues. These are white, lightweight poplin uniforms, very roomy, very comfortable to wear. They dry very quickly when they get wet. They are modeled loosely after in our uniforms and equipment, and that is particularly noticeable in our jungle boots that were designed for service in Southeast Asia. These are mostly made out of leather soles with a nylon upper, a minimum amount, rubber soles a minimum amount of leather. These are designed to be comfortable to wear, to be very lightweight, also to dry very quickly, and most of them will have a steel plate in the sole. The reason that you
the XM16E1. This was the second version of the M16. The original M16
cái súng đó là XM16, đời đầu của súng M16.
It was prone to many problems. Jamming was one. They corrected some of those problems with the problems that they had. I used this one. Matter of fact, I burned up a couple of them. I never had a problem with the jamming. I cleaned it every day. It serviced me well. This weapon weighs about 6 pounds. Put a 20-round magazine in it, weighs about 7. It'll shoot about 800 rounds a minute.
modeled after the MG42 German machine gun that was so effective in World War II. Like the M14, it fires a 7.62 millimeter or .308 cartridge in a 100-round dissolving metallic metal belt. And so the gunner would carry
khẩu trung liên M60, đạn 7.62 ly.
This thing can fire 450 to 550 rounds a minute to an effective range of 1,200 yards. The weapon weighs 23 pounds, carried by a single man. It was therefore nicknamed the Pig because it felt like you were carrying a pig iron with you wherever you went. Nonetheless, this weapon was rugged, it was effective, it had a great deal of knockdown and penetrating power.
With whole gun.
You notice that M16 has that good old rat-a-tat-tat sound that American machine guns have had ever since the First World War. The M60 was, of course, supported by other weapons in the rifle squad, and one of the most important of those is the piece that we're bringing out now, weapon that is a breech loader. So it's sort of like a shotgun. You open the breech, you insert a 40mm grenade into it, you close the breech, you're ready to fire. Most grenadiers would carry 30 or 40 of these grenades on them, as well as a pistol, sometimes their own rifle. This ammunition for this weapon is high explosive, smoke, pyrotechnic, or anti-personnel, which means it's loaded with anti-personnel darts called flechettes that would rip a human being to pieces in a single blast. This weapon has a front sight for aiming, but most good M79 gunners never had to use it because they learned very quickly the right angle to hold their weapon at, to put their grenade exactly where they wanted it to go. And a good M79 gunner could hit a target with pinpoint accuracy at 150 yards, and he could hit a general area target easily at 350 yards. If you think that little 5.56mm or .223 M16 round doesn't sound much like a firearm compared to the M14 or the M60, then you're not going to think this thing sounds like anything at all. Demonstrate your weapon. So they don't sound like much, but they have a big impact on the enemy, and in close quarters fighting in the jungle, these M79s were invaluable to the frontline infantry. Close quarters fighting also. This is the successor to the famous Mark II fragmentation grenade that was used in World War II. You remember those grenades have a similar shape, but they have squares on the outside. That was designed to help them fragment when they were exploded. The grooves that made those squares were weak points in the casting, and so the idea was the explosive force would run through the casting wherever those grooves were, and the squares would become fragmented. Well, the problem was that the interior of the grenade was smooth, so the explosive force was uniformly distributed around the shell of the grenade, and therefore they didn't actually fragment the way that they were intended. So after World War II, and sometimes they were a lot closer than you might imagine.
The assault team was broken into 2 teams. I have behind me one of the assault teams. The other one might be closer than you think. The assault team was broken into 2 teams. Each team had 3 cells. The first cell was the penetration cell. Their role was to go engage with the enemy, try to penetrate, divide, and conquer a larger organization. To go auto and in fire bursts of 100 rounds per minute. Its effective range was only about 400 yards. But now I'm carrying 100 rounds per minute that I can fire, and I'm close hugging my enemy. It was a very, very good weapon. It came in a standard configuration with a 30 block round magazine. It had a 40 round magazine as well, and it came with 75 and 100 round drums. That was the AK-47, a very effective weapon. The VC were well supplied, had great supply lines, and as you can tell, were hiding anywhere. That's a little bit of the tactics and the weapons. Right face. Mark.
The United States did not fight the war in Vietnam by itself. We had with us the South Vietnamese Army. We had troops from the Republic of Korea, South Korea, the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, and Thailand. And one of the great advantages we enjoyed was superior logistics and enormous firepower. We also had the armor in Vietnam, both tanks and armored personnel carriers. We think about Vietnam being a helicopter war, and it very much was. The helicopters could take us into enemy territory, they could evacuate our wounded, they could resupply us, they could provide ground support, but the helicopters couldn't always be there. Claymore anti-personnel mine. Just about every other grunt would carry one of these in a unit. And at night, when you formed your perimeter, you would take these and you would set them outside your perimeter as a mode of protection. This thing weighs 3.5 pounds. Inside of that metal casing is 1.5 pounds of plastic explosive, into which is embedded 704 ball bearings. You'll notice that the thing is curved. It is a directional electronically detonated mine. To deploy it, the soldier would pop down the 4 legs. He would take it to where he wants it to be placed. He would stick those 4 legs into the ground. Then he would coil a long electrical cable. On one end of that is a detonator that was inserted into the mine. At the other end was an outlet that would be plugged into the detonating device. Detonating device is a clapper. It's a handheld system, doesn't need a battery, and when you click it 3 times, you create enough electrical current to detonate the mine. This thing will throw the 704 ball bearings out on a 60-degree arc at basically a level between a man's ankles and a man's knee. At 25, Viet Cong or the NDA were aware of that, and sometimes they would slink up through the night and very quietly turn these things around to point towards you. And then they would launch an attack, you would hit the clappers, the mine would explode in your direction. And so grunts and Marines learned that you booby-trapped these things, put flares around them, so if the enemy came up and tried to use them, he would be blown up or he would expose himself for where he could reverse the direction of the mine. This weapon was an extra bit of weight for at 704 ball bearings that have just raced through the air, and right there you heard one thing in the infantry unit that was deadlier to the enemy than anything else. It's what we've just brought out now, and this is the radio, specifically the PRC-77, 14 pounds. Most of that's battery. This is the first all-transistor radio in the U.S. military. It can be adjusted terms of channel, volume, frequency, and this is the connection between the infantry unit and all of that support. The connection to the air, to the medevac, to the resupply, to the reinforcements, to the headquarters, and the artillery that could come down on the enemy's head if we got ourselves into trouble. In addition to the 14-pound radio, the RTO, the radio telephone operator, is going to carry his own weapon.
They're hiding somewhere. tái diễn cuộc chiến Việt Nam đã kết thúc. Mình xin hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào video kế tiếp nha. Xin chào các bạn và chúc các bạn vui vẻ và hạnh phúc.